The following is a presentation from PokerStars.com. Previously on the big game, our final loose cannon came out confident.
You want to play big pot against me? You'll get your chance before this is over.
Going face-to-face and winning pots against Amac and Abe.
Boss, what are you doing to me?
Then Bob the Bus called Elke's bluff.
I call.
That was a bad try, buddy.
And rigged his biggest pot of the week. But it was Hellmuth who ended the night with the most chips after he hit a straight on the river, beating Amac's pocket kings.
You can show me a bluff.
Tonight, can Phil stay on top? Or will Bobby the Bus run him down?
All I know is, Phil, you're not going to get there again when I get you smashed.
Bobby's pursuit of the NAPT passport continues now.
This is the PokerStars.com Big Game.
Welcome to the big game from Las Vegas. Alongside Joe Stapleton, I'm Chris Rose, where tonight some of the world's best continue with action in our state-of-the-art poker room, and there's almost $750,000 on the table.
Elke Gros-Pellier is hurting from the five-barrel bluff that missed the loose cannons every major Oregon. He's down over $62,000.
Abe Mosseri was down big time at one point last night. He has crawled back a bit, but he's still stuck over $15K.
He's not in the sixth seat, he's not running bad, and he's not losing. Phil Hellmuth is up just shy of 75 grand. He still did mention the bracelets, though.
Peter Jetten joined the party last night and made the most of his opportunity. He's up nearly $37,000.
Amit Makhija, a.k.a. Amac, is here, and he's hoping to generate some green money, He's down just shy of 5K.
And the season's final loose cannon is the former city bus driver from Boston, Bobby the Bus Ferdinand. He's turned a nice, tidy profit so far, and he's standing by with Amanda Leatherman.
Bobby the Bus, you had quite a session last night. Are you going to try and hold on to that money, or are you going to go for the passport?
I'm going to try to hold on to it and play solid, and if the passport falls in my lap, then so be it.
But you're not that worried about it?
No.
All right, good luck, Bus.
Once again, the cannon rules. Each one's been staked 100 grand to play, keeps all winnings above the initial 100,000, and the loose cannon who's won the most money at season's end earns a North American Poker Tour passport worth 50 grand.
That passport gets you into a series of events on the NAPT Tour. David Fishman set the benchmark to win the passport at 129.6.
Action begins on Abe Mosseri. Raises to 1,200. Hellmuth is out. Ace 10 for Jetten.
Jetten's got Abe dominated.
He calls. Amit Makhija folds on the button. Ace Queen for the cannon.
The loose cannon has both Jetten and Abe dominated.
Just calls.
All right.
Elke's in too.
I got 800 of my money.
And only Elke's got a live card.
For Ace King, top pair for the cannon. He checks. Elke checks. Mosseri checks. Jetten, top pair as well.
Bobby's got everyone under the bus, but he's playing in flow.
Jetten bets 3,500.
Bobby certainly can't fold, but this would be a risky spot for a raise. We know he's got the best hand, but in general, your reverse implied odds aren't great if you get called after raising here.
He does raise to 8,500. Elke folds. Abe is out. Jetten calls.
Jetten not ready to let go of top pair just yet.
From 4 on the flop to 2 on the turn, which is the 3 of hearts.
If Bobby was going to check raise the flop, he should bet again here.
Nope, he checks.
Jetten may like his hand, but he could also be a little trepidatious over that check raise on the flop.
Jetten checks behind. The river. The 10 of clubs, 2 pair for Jetten.
Jetten probably still would have called the turn, so Bobby saved himself some money, but that's playing results. Bobby checked when he had the best of it. Now he's betting when he's got the worst of it.
And it's a bet of 12,500.
Jetten probably likes his hand, but a raise would be pretty thin in this spot.
A call.
Just a call. And the cannon sees the bad news.
Lucky.
Jetten wins a pot of more than 47 grand.
I thought he had ace 10.
Oh, boy.
Ouch. Don't rub it, Bobby.
So the cannon takes an early hit as we take a look at the rules of the big game. Each table lasts exactly 150 hands. The action pre-flop is pot limit, then no limit after the flop. Blinds are 2 and 400 with a $100 ante, all of which is paid by the player on the button. And every player begins with at least $100,000, but can reload for up to $500,000.
They call him Bobby the Bus because he used to drive one, not because he's yellow and only has one gear.
Man, I keep getting unlucky with these hands.
Action on Hellmuth, who calls.
Phil's been limping around this week more than Kaiser Soze.
Raises to 2,000. Jack 9 suited for Ferdinand, who calls. Elke's out. So's Abe. Phil calls. 3 to the flop. 9 Jack ace, bottom 2 for Bobby. Hellmuth checks.
Bobby's got a chance to get some of his money back from that last hand.
Jetten with top pair checks.
That's an odd check after raising. For Bobby, with stack sizes the way they are, it'd be okay to play this a little fast and try to get some money in on the flop.
Bobby bets 4,500. Hellmuth folds.
Jetten's in a spot where he's very likely to think he has the best hand. He could be thinking about a raise, but he probably doesn't want to bloat the pot while out of position.
Jetten makes the call. The turn, the ace of clubs gives trips to Jetten.
Jetten called behind and caught up again.
And slow plays it. Bobby the Bus checks as well. 3 of hearts on the river.
Even if Jetten knew exactly how strong a hand Bobby had, he'd still know it'd be pretty tough to get him to call much here on the river.
Jetten checks.
I check.
3 aces.
Again. You got me again. Is this sick? Is this sick?
Jack 9?
Is this sick? This is sick, man. God. Nice hand.
I had more F that time, at least.
Bobby played it right to lose the minimum.
And Jetten rakes in a pot of more than 16 grand.
Thought maybe you had like Queen 10 a little bit more often than
Yeah.
Jack 9.
Bobby's lost 30 grand so far tonight, but he's still up over 40,000.
Well, it's nice to be lucky once in a while.
Bobby says Phil Hellmuth's his favorite player. Sounds like he's emulating him. So I guess free-rolling his way online for a $100,000 stake and a chance to play on a television show doesn't count as being lucky.
Well, Peter Jetten said he was lucky last hand. Let's see what he's got here. 10. Ace.
Ace 10's considered to be a big ace. You can pretty much raise it from any position six-handed.
And he does to 1,300. Jack 8 for Amac.
Amac maybe getting antsy in the pantsy.
Yeah, he calls. The cannon folds. Elke, King Queen suited. Calls. Abe's out. So's Phil.
We'll have to see if Amac was just getting antsy or if he's going to use his image to try to rep a hand.
10-5-4. Jetten running hot with top pair. Bets 3,500.
If Amac does try to rep a hand, Jetten probably won't fold top-top to a raise.
Makhija folds. But Elke's sticking around. He calls.
Elke's thrown out a little float here.
The turn. King of clubs. Elke now has top pair.
Peter Jetten gets run down for once. This should actually look like a pretty safe card for Jetten, as there aren't too many hands that should be cold calling that flop with a king. King 10 is about the only one that comes to mind.
Jetten bets 9,000.
No chance Elke will fold now. A raise might even get him some action.
Elke calls.
Peter Jetten at this point probably has no idea what's about to hit him.
That would be the 3 of hearts on the river.
The 3 doesn't affect their hands. Ace, deuce, and 6-7 both made straights, but Peter Jetten may very well think his pair of 10s is the best hand.
Jetten bets 85 grand with second pair.
This might seem like a gross overbet, but he's actually putting Elke all in for 21-9. And there's the reaction we were looking for. I think this might be one of those merge situations where Jetten's hand is not polarized. The hope is sometimes Elke will fold a slightly better hand, and sometimes he'll make a hero call with slightly worse.
Kind of fun, right?
This is a really tough spot for Elke. Could be a coin flip. Let's see what he does.
He folds.
Elke was getting 2.5 to 1 there, so maybe he made a bad read, or maybe he forgot you only have to call what you have left on the table. And Elke's going through the 5 stages of grief on his face right now.
Which stage is that?
I think he's at acceptance.
Well, except this. Peter Jetten is now the most profitable player at the table. The big game is just heating up. More from Las Vegas coming your way after this.
My name's Peter Jetten. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I think that there are some of the older veterans that are a little bit stuck in their ways and haven't adapted to the newer game. But a lot of them play well, but they might just not know all the terminology like 3-betting and VPIP and all of this stuff that people have adapted to and learned just to stay on top of what the younger people are thinking about the game. I consider myself almost a veteran at this point, having been playing poker for 5 or 6 years. A lot of the time you go to some events in other places and you're playing with people that are 18 or 19 years old, and some of them have even been playing for a couple of years now. So it's very interesting to see the different generations of poker and how that's changed over the years.
Peter Jetten's playing like a veteran, and it rhymes. He's up almost 90,000.
Jetten in the big blind this hand. That means action begins on Amit Makhija. Folds. Cannons out. Elke.
Folds around the Elke, who just lost a pot.
And raises to 1,300. Queens for Abe.
Typically, we'd see a re-raise here.
He's on the button. Just calls.
Maybe he didn't want to chase away all his action. Slow played a bit.
King, queen suited for Hellmuth, who calls. Jetten. Well, there's the 4 queens.
Can't even call with that hand.
Abe's not hitting a set.
So 3 to the flop. 9-4 jack. Hellmuth checks his gut shot. Elke checks.
This is a pretty good flop for queens.
Mosseri bets 3,500.
Hellmuth's got 2 overcards to the board and a gut shot.
And calls. Elke folds.
Check it.
Hellmuth checks in the dark. Turns the 7 of clubs.
Abe can't be too worried about that 7 or anything else out there for that matter.
Abe bets 7,500. Hellmuth folds, and Mosseri takes it down.
Slow playing the queens worked out for him.
No trappy there.
I had king queen suited. I was doing a little trapping. But that wasn't trapping, actually.
Can't really trap with king high.
You're in bad shape.
Before the flop or after the flop?
All the time.
Okay. I needed a 10 ball. King would have won it for me too, probably.
Yep, queen, not a queen.
Got it.
Action on the cannon, who raises. Elke folds. Abe, queen's last hand, jack's here.
I'm gonna raise the pot.
Re-raises to 4,800.
Jacks are a lot more dangerous to slow play pre-flop.
Phil folds. Peter Jetten, big slick.
With Jetten out of position, we're very likely to see a 4th bet here. Typically, you don't want to play out of position and without the lead.
There's the 4 bet to 15 grand. Amac, 10-8.
2 of Bobby's outs.
Folds.
Oh, look what I started.
Ferdinand is finished.
We could see another raise here, but typically these guys don't like to get tons of money in with jacks.
There's just a call.
Can I see your chips?
Abe's got about 75,000 behind.
Heads up to the flop. 6-deuce tray. The cannon would have flopped a flush.
Jetten missed, but he does have a strong flush draw with 2 overs. And he's got enough equity here that the only card he really doesn't want to see Abe with is the ace of clubs. But even then, Abe would have a better draw, but probably not a better hand.
Jetten bets 20,000.
This bet is for almost a third of Abe's stack, so if he's going to see any more cards, he's more than likely going to see both of them. Abe may think he has the best hand, but he's also likely to know that if he does, Jetten's bound to have a lot of outs. And not only does Jetten have a lot of outs, but he's actually a slight favorite to win the hand.
I'm all in.
Abe's all in.
All right, I call.
Jetten calls.
Basically a coin flip for about 180 grand.
One second. No, don't do it. Just put back.
Do whatever you want.
We could do it 2 times or 4 times or 1 time. How about that?
All right, let's do it 2 times.
Okay, 2 times, good.
I would have flopped the flush.
Oh, really? No, that's bad news for me.
Not kidding you.
I guess I'm a slight underdog then.
The first run, 5 of spades on the turn.
No help for Jetten.
Some chop outs.
A non-club 4 would result in a chop for the first run.
The first river is the 4 of clubs. Jetten gets there, making his flush. He wins half the pot, worth nearly 91 grand.
I'm running too good today.
Exactly what I figured you had, ace king, and I was hoping you didn't have a club, I guess.
More than 90 grand still in play for the second run.
I sort of thought you had your hand too, but, you know, what can I do except try to make you fold it, you know?
The turn's a deuce of hearts.
The jack of clubs will fill up Mosseri. Otherwise, he needs to dodge an ace, a king, or a club, or he's going broke.
The river, the 3 of hearts.
All right, no blood. That's good.
Yeah, I would have ran it twice, you know what I mean? That's what I would have done too. I'd have flopped it, I would have ran it twice. Because I
Yeah, if you were in there, I might have moved in anyway. If you call that 10 or whatever that he played, I probably would have moved in.
Oh, pre-flop?
So I would have got you, I guess.
No, I would have said let's run it twice, and I would have.
No, you wouldn't have been able to play. You call his, and then I'm gonna
Oh no,
move
I
in.
can't. That's why I just can't.
I would have.
There's too much action behind me, you know. I just.
Bobby a little frustrated by that 4 bet, but it's been a frustrating week for Abe. He's been playing aggressively and getting his money in with good equity, as you can see by his expected value, but the cards just haven't been falling his way, so instead he's stuck 9,300. We'll see if Abe can ward off the tilt until the cards start falling his way.
Well, the action continues here on hand 66 out of the 150 we'll play this week. Elke, ace-jack. Raises to 1,300. King-jack for Abe, who calls. Phil folds.
No, thank you.
Jetten's out. Amax gone, so's the cannon.
Abe's in rough shape here, dominated.
The flop, ace, queen, king. Elke checks top pair in a straight draw. Mosseri checks middle pair in a straight draw. Ace of hearts on the turn. Trip aces for Elke, who bets 2,200.
Elke's rep will help him here, as Abe knows he's totally capable of bluffing at this ace with just about any 2 cards.
Mosseri calls. The river, the 7 of diamonds.
Thinking a small value bet from Elke might even get paid.
Elke bets 5,500. Mosseri calls. And Elke takes it down.
Not sure that's going to help Abe's frustration level.
But that pot of more than $19,000 should help Elke's mentality.
It'll just take him off life support. He's got barely over 30K.
All right, at least you checked the flop.
Abe shakes it off like a champ. And it took all of 12 seconds. Let's see how he regroups after this. Time to take a look at the cash count through 75 hands. Peter Jetten joined the fun last night. He is up the most so far, followed by Phil Hellmuth, and the cannon has also turned a profit.
Amac and Abe have a bit of catching up to do, and Elke the Frenchman is down in the wine cellar. We, of course, lost Vanessa Russo on the first day of the session.
Once again, he's Joe, I am Chris. We are exactly halfway through the week, which means it's time to take a deeper look into the stats for this table. Joe, let me guess. You down with VPIP?
Yeah, you know me. Let's take a look. We've seen Phil Hellmuth play a very loose style lately, and this week follows that new trend with the poker brat playing over half the hands he's dealt. On the opposite end of the spectrum is Amit Makhija, who's been playing just 20% of the hands. I'm a bit surprised to see a quote-unquote internet kid playing so tight, but if we take a look at 3-bet percentages, it's apparent that Amac isn't completely asleep. He leads in this category, 3-betting 13% of his opportunities. So he's asleep until he wakes up with a big hand.
Now, Joe, one of the guys we've been looking most forward to watching here on the big game is Elke. What's going on with him?
Elke has a big reputation, which he's certainly playing up to statistically, even though he's down right now. He has been very active and aggressive pre-flop and keeping the pressure on post-flop with the highest aggression factor. Unfortunately, he just hasn't gotten there very often, and his bluffs are getting looked up, while his made hands have been running into mater hands. Seems to me like all the get there run good has been snatched up by Peter Jetten. Remember, Peter joined the table when we lost Vanessa Russo, and he took over Hellmuth's role as action controller, winning a quarter of the pot since he sat down. He has yet to lose a whole pot after all the cards are out and leads the table with over 290K won at Showdown, which means he's always got the goods in the big pots and he's getting paid off handsomely.
Must be nice. So, Joe, what do you make of our loose cannon, Bobby the Bus?
The Bus has typical stats as cannons go, but as is usually the case, he should be playing more aggressively. The amateur needs to be raising more pre-flop and folding a bit less post-flop, but who can argue with the results? He's netted a big number at Showdown, which tells me that he's not afraid to look up some of those big bully bets when he does have a hand. I'm sure Bobby has seen the movie Speed. Same story here. So, Chris, what do you do, hotshot? What do you do?
Keep the bus above 55 miles an hour?
Bingo.
Well, as we race back to the action, we'll notice that Mr. Hellmuth has taken a pit stop somewhere.
There have been plenty of times when Phil's deserved a timeout, but today he's been on his best behavior, so I hope someone told him halftime is over.
Action on Elke, Queen 5, he folds. Abe's out. Peter Jetten, 7-4 suited, on the button. Raises to 1,300.
He's raising in position and attacking the cannon's big blind.
Amac folds. Jack 9 suited for Ferdinand.
Pot.
Re-raises to 4,700.
Hey, yo, the loose cannon defending his big blind with a good offense. Jetten looks like he's not ready to give this up just yet.
He calls.
Peter may feel like he can outplay the loose cannon while he's in position.
Jack 4 Jack trips for Bobby.
Outplay that.
Action on the cannon. Bet 6,500.
Jetten might even stick around to see if his 4 is any good.
Nope.
Nice hand. You really didn't want me to call there? Oh, wow. Good flop.
Most players wouldn't fold in that spot, so good fold, Peter Jetten.
That's the only hand I'm showing for the rest of the session.
No more free rides. If you want on Bobby's bus, you're going to have to pay the exact fare.
I was hoping you'd raise me, thinking I missed everything, or maybe a big ace or something, but
Yeah.
I don't know if my bet was too big there for you to take a shot.
It just wasn't too good of a flop for me.
Yeah.
Come back,
I believed
Mr.
you.
Hellmuth. I see him right there.
Where? I don't see him.
Give him a hand for free. We don't mind.
Give him a second, Abe. He's hollering at Jordan on the two-way.
You're going to play this one friendly, Elke.
See what I have. Let's see how friendly I can be. I can be friendly with that.
Blind versus blind to the flop.
Poker without you is not the same, buddy.
It's a little slow.
Deuce 6 deuce.
You guys miss me?
Yeah, everybody was missing you. Trying to do impressions. It wasn't the same.
It's not very friendly.
The cannon bets 1,000. Elke folds.
No, I didn't raise your pre-flop. I had an ace pre-flop. I didn't raise you, so that was friendly enough, I think.
I had 4 high.
What do you think?
I had 4 high.
That was friendly enough. I didn't raise you with an ace.
You could have raised, it's fine.
I had an ace. I'm just saying.
I had 4 high.
Both of their accents are so thick, I'm not sure either one knows what the other one's saying.
Ace Jack for
Mac.
nice. And he
Even he can't resist playing this one.
raises. Action folds around to Mosseri. Calls on the button. King 8 for Phil. He calls. Ace-10 for Jetten.
All right. This looks like fun. Can't turn down this offer. How much is it, 14?
He calls.
Jetten's made a fine defend from the big blind, but he is dominated.
4 to the flop. 8-9-6. Abe flops a straight. Hellmuth checks second pair.
Jetten's got a gut shot. And ace high.
And he checks. Amac checks.
See if Abe thinks he can get any action if he bets it 4 ways.
He does. Bets 5,000.
It's pretty rare to see Hellmuth fold a pair on the flop, especially with Abe betting in position.
But there's the fold.
Wow, maybe a little wary that Abe would bet into 3 opponents.
Jetten folds.
Nice end.
So does Amac.
Good bet.
Not the result Abe was looking for.
I might have had him beat.
You didn't.
I might have had him beat.
You couldn't call me, you didn't have me beat.
I could beat 7s. I could beat most 8s, too.
With laydowns like that, Phil's a shoo-in to be one of the top 6 finishers tonight.
Ah, you joke, but he's running second in profits right now. See what happens when we come back. Welcome back to Las Vegas, Nevada, home of the big game. That's what all of this season's loose cannons have been chasing, the grand prize of an NAPT passport, a series of events, all expenses paid.
It's going to be one of these two, and Bob the Bus has a lot of miles to go to catch the math teacher from Arizona, David Fishman, and you can bet these guys will be ringing his bell every chance they get.
Action on Bobby the Bus, ace-9. Raises to 1,200.
Pretty loose raise from under the gun with the gimp hand.
8-5 suited for Elke. He repops to 3,200.
Speaking of ringing the cannon's bell,
action folds around to Amac, who folds. And a call from the cannon.
there are a lot of clubs out. That won't help Elke.
The flop, 8-6 ace, both get a piece. Ferdinand checks top pair.
Elke's continuing with what will sometimes be the best hand.
Bets 4,400 with middle pair.
Bobby called pre-flop. He can't fold top pair.
You are correct. He calls. The turn. The 9 of hearts giving Bobby 2 pair.
Bobby's turned a good card, but it does complete a potential flush. I have to give this guy credit, though. He hasn't really played too scared.
The cannon leads out, betting 15,000.
Elke's got a gut shot to go with this pair, but this bet's for almost half of Elke's stack. And it may just be too big of a bet to pay off with a hand where he could already be drawing dead.
Elke folds.
Nice bet.
Bobby the Bus put a few more miles on his odometer. He's now up over 51,000.
Pretty good bet.
Unfortunately for Elke, he's been running headfirst into some big hands tonight. And as far as I can remember, there's only been one hand where he's laid down the winner.
That was earlier against Peter Jetten. Remember when those two clashed? Elke folded top pair. How did Jetten get him to do it? Let's go inside his mind as we go behind the poker face.
So in this hand, I raise ace-10 off under the gun +1 and get a call from Amac and Elke. I get a pretty good flop for my hand. I get top pair, top kicker on 10-5-4, where I bet the flop. I get a call from Elke. At this point, I think that his most likely hand is something like 6-5, 7-5, or maybe a pair under 10s, or any 10 like that's worse than my hand. And also, there's a few hands that he would slow play that are better. When the turn came a king, that only really helps his hand if he had king 10. It's a good card for me to continue to bluff on, and I would have bet that flop with quite a few hands also. So I thought it was a good spot to get value, especially with his stack size. It left me the right amount to kind of shove on the river. And I thought if I had a safe river, I was just gonna bet all in. The 3 was pretty good, only 6-7 got there, which is very unlikely for him the way he played his hand when he just called the turn. So I decided to value shove right there. I thought there was a chance he could fold better maybe, but just very likely that my hand was good. And I thought there was a decent chance he could hero call me with a 10 or pair of 8s or some hand like that.
Jetten got Elke to lay down top pair, a king with a queen kicker. When Elke sees this on TV, I think he's going to be his own kicker.
Well, let's see what Elke's got brewing this hand. Queen 4, he folds. Abe raises with suited connectors. Ace queen suited for Hellmuth.
This is probably a pretty easy re-raise considering Abe's cutoff range.
Yep, to 4,800. Jetten folds. Amit Makhija, ace king.
We could very well see a fourth bet here if Amac wants to take control of this pot since he's out of position.
Yep, to 15,000. The cannon folds. Abe's out.
That's a big re-raise, almost the max. But if Amac watches this show, he's noticed that Philly doesn't fold a lot of aces, even when he gets 3 or 4 bet.
How deep are you? 80? 80 more?
You don't answer that question. By the way, I'm gonna tell you, so far, Phil has never folded a hand that he's put a chip before the flop, in before the flop. Realize that? He's anytime he's put a chip in, he limped, raised, re-raised, he calls.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I can bet you Amac knows that.
There's a first time for everything.
Ah, would have won that bet.
Good fold.
I mean, I'm not sure that he had it. I mean, I know these young guys are waiting to come over the top of me. That's why I've called every time they re-raised.
Phil may be right about the youngins gunning for him, but Amac's been playing pretty snug this week. And this wasn't a 3-bet, it was a 4-bet, which ace-queen is almost never ahead of. But as for 3-bets, Abe is right. Phil has not folded even once after a re-raise, which is an important piece of information for deciding whether or not a 3rd bet will chase away all your action. As for Amit, you can see why he has that tight image. He's only raising 12% of his hands to begin with.
This is the first time you folded. You only probably would have folded against him. I know you would have folded against him or me or Elke or this guy.
I don't plan on folding it very much 6-handed, ace-queen suited.
Just did, yeah. He's playing loose all day.
He's the loosest player ever.
He's supposed to have me dominated, but yeah.
He did.
It was Domination Nation, and Amac was the president.
Action on Abe Mosseri, king 6 suited.
Why pot it with jacks? I mean,
Raising under the gun. Hellmuth folds. Jetten.
I will fold.
He will fold. Amac.
Your VPPP is whatever.
VPIP is too high.
VPIP is too high.
Sky high.
Now he's getting loose.
Calls 6 high on the button. The cannon's in. Elke's out.
No, you re-raised a bunch of hands.
cannon.
You re-raised a bunch of hands.
3 to the flop. King, ace, king. We could see fireworks trip kings for Bob and Abe.
Speaking of domination, the bus is dominating Abe on a flop where a lot of money could get in.
The bus bets 3,500.
Donks it.
Abe just calls.
Abe's in bad shape, but with even one more big card, they'll probably end up chopping.
Amac folds. The turn. Deuce of clubs.
Well, that's not a big card. That's a very bad card for Abe.
Bob checks.
Bobby's working the air brakes on that bus, maybe afraid of the flush, maybe looking for a check raise.
Mosseri bets 7,000.
Bobby's shown some good poker sense this week. Maybe even he realizes a 7's not such a hot kicker, and he might even be in trouble.
He calls. The river. The queen of spades.
As long as no one folds, this hand will end in a chop.
The cannon fires 12,000.
Abe's right to be confused. Bobby seemed like he didn't love his hand a second ago, and now he's betting. Even still, Abe's definitely not folding.
In fact, he raises to 28,000.
This is actually a pretty risky raise by Abe. It's possible Bobby could be betting with worse than 3 kings on that board, maybe. But even still, he's almost never calling this raise with anything Abe's beating. Now, the same goes for Bobby. As I was saying for Abe, he can't love this raise, but he can't fold either.
There's the call.
Got a king.
You got a little lucky you got there, Abe.
Chop.
You got a little lucky in that river card.
You didn't have that many cards.
I like few.
You know, we all learned to share as kids. Doing it as an adult stinks. We're back after this. Welcome back to the big game from Las Vegas. And Joe, this is our final table of the season.
Chris, before we go, will you sign my yearbook?
Sure. Dear Joe, we should hang this summer.
How about a phone number?
No. Ace-9 for the cannon. Raises. Elke, king deuce suited, calls. Abe is in. Hellmuth folds. Peter Jetten, a pocket pair. He calls. Sevens for Amit Makhija. He calls. So we've got 5 going to the flop.
Everybody's got a little something.
Jack, deuce, ace, top pair for the cannon. Jetten checks. Amac checks.
Let's see how Bobby wants to work top pair bad kicker 5-way.
He's firing 4,500. Elke folds. Abe folds. Jetten folds.
Loose cannon just bet into 4 opponents. Amac probably has a good idea. His 7s are no good.
I don't know. He's got chips. And he raises to 13,000.
Amac's got a very tight image, as we've mentioned, so it's possible he thinks this raise might get Bobby to fold a jack or even a weak ace. And in case calling ace-9 the gimp hand didn't tip you off, it is pretty much a weak ace. Now, Bobby hasn't been moved off a lot of hands this week, but if anyone's earned some credit, it's Amac. And Bob probably knows that he isn't just facing this bet, he only has top pair, and if he calls here, there's a distinct possibility he'll be facing even bigger bets on the turn and river.
Okay.
Bob lays down top pair.
I can't wait to see that hand.
That time he might have been bluffing.
You are correct, sir.
He's got his bluffing shoes on. I didn't realize.
They're also green.
Can't wait to see that hand.
Oh, you can wait.
Tough spot to bluff in.
Bluffing shoes. Now Nike can corner the poker market, too. And Amac's got the tight image covered at this table. If you don't know who Amit Makhija is, you should. He's 25 years old. He's a graduate of the University of Minnesota. He's got 2 WSOP final tables to his credit, and tonight he's up just over $4,000. It's funny, Bobby the Bus is from Boston, and Amit dressed up like the Green Monster.
But he's not 37 feet tall.
Give or take.
The tallest player at the table, Phil Hellmuth, folds. Peter Jetten, king 8 suited. He raises to 1,300. Amac folds. So does the cannon. Elke, queen deuce suited. He's out. Abe, 7-5. Protects his blind.
That's a pretty loose defend offsuit and out of position.
The flop, 9, ace, 8. Mosseri checks his gut shot. Action over to Jetten.
Jetten's got the best hand with a pair of 8s.
He bets 3,000, and Abe folds.
That's some good betting by Jetten. A pair will be good there a good majority of the time.
Jetten adds a little more loot to his ever-growing account. Anybody ever going to slow that guy down? Find out when we return to Las Vegas for more of the big game when we come back. Welcome back to the big game. Our final loose cannon this season, Bobby the Bus Ferdinand, is up 42 grand, but he still trails our leading loose cannon, David Fishman, by more than 87,000.
That is some quick math there, Chris Rose. We'll have to see if Bobby tries to protect this profit he does have, or if he tries to shoot the moon and pass David Fishman.
Action folds around to Bobby the Bus with 10s. Raises to 2,000. Elke, suited connectors.
The cannon's got Elke's hand in pretty deep doo-doo.
He calls. Abe's out.
Too low.
Phil, 9, 8.
Phil isn't faring much better.
But he calls.
The LC's got massive equity for a 3-way pot.
5-4-6. Elke flops a straight.
Equity schmequity.
Hellmuth checks his gut shot
Elke was pretty short coming into this hand. Bobby's got an overpair to the board.
and bets 4,500.
Elke could get doubled up here.
He just calls.
Elke has what the French call la nuts. Hellmuth's got 2 overs that we know are no good and a gut shot to the bigger nuts.
And he made the call. King of spades on the turn. Hellmuth checks. Bobby checks.
The king may scare the LC enough to save him some money. Elke's also picked up a flush draw to go with the nuts.
And he bets 6,600. Hellmuth, release.
Elke's bet less than a third of the size of the pot, hoping to make it too cheap for Bobby to fold.
Bobby calls.
And he succeeded.
The river. The queen of diamonds.
Well, this here is another potential scare card for 2 10s.
Bobby checks.
Here it comes.
Elke shoves.
Bobby's in a pretty tough spot because this river bet is still not much compared to the pot. He's getting more than 3 to 1.
You ain't pulling that again, okay, are you? About 4,500 with a 6-eye flop, huh? I'm not sure about this one.
Bobby's got good poker instincts, but can he listen to them? Especially when the math is saying the opposite.
Bobby calls. Elke shows and takes down a pot of nearly 60,000 bucks.
Yeah. I see.
That was a pretty good flop, I guess.
And with that double up, Elke manages to avoid going back to his horrible day job of playing StarCraft for a living to millions of adoring fans.
Meanwhile, a rough night for Bobby the Bus, who lost nearly $55,000 in this session. But you know what? He's still turned a profit. Not quite as much as Peter Jetten, who's up near 78 grand. Phil Hellmuth, all smiles as well.
Amit the Nit rocked his way back to profit. Meanwhile, Abe Mosseri's cards didn't run his way, and Elke's still stuck, but came a long way by doubling up on the last hand.
All right, guys, it's that time again. Bob, you're
Yes.
still showing a profit,
I am, but
but it's rough playing with
it's
these pros,
rough,
huh?
Yep, I think I got a tough crew here.
Peter, you're loving the big game, huh?
Hey, I'm happy.
You look happy. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. I'm Amanda Leatherman saying goodbye for now. And remember, if you've got the cash and the guts, there's always a seat open at the big game. Good night, everybody.
For Joe Stapleton, I'm Chris Rose. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Hey, Phil.
What's up, girl?
How you doing?
Winning?
Winning as usual.
As usual. Elke, you're still around.
Yeah,
Nice double up.
thank you. That was a nice flop.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
Yeah, it's a great flop. Are you kidding me?
The preceding was a presentation from PokerStars.com.